But you can, as the proverb has, you know, the guy who was picking up the starfish, and the beach was littered with starfish who were dying because the water was out. And the guy goes up, picks up one, and throws it back in. The guy says, another guy says, "How much good is that going to do? That's just one starfish." And he goes, "Yes, but it is one." That is what you can do as a juror. You can nullify these outrageous draconian laws and the penalties that come with them, the mandatory minimums. You can nullify that as a single jury. You can hang the jury. You have the right, you have the duty to do that. It's called jury nullification. You need to educate yourself about that. But I want to look at, real quickly, Paul, and get your reaction to this. There's a story that was up on Reason 2 days ago, talking about the San Francisco Police Department and the approach that the police chief there is taking towards the war on drugs. They say when San Francisco stopped prosecuting drug users, violent crime went down. And so they talked to the police chief there, and he says he supports drug prohibition. He says, "I'm a narc. I've been a narcotics guy forever. I feel sorry for the people who are addicted to drugs." However, even though he sees it as a serious public health issue that needs to be addressed, he is not going out there and escalating the violence. They say that San Francisco offers an enticing glimpse at what American cities might begin to look like if drugs were legalized or decriminalized. His department still makes arrests for drug dealings, but only on a complaint-driven basis. They don't go out of their way to set up stings or raids or SWAT raids, as we're talking about. He says, "We're not trying to keep a stat game going on arresting people for narcotics, and it hasn't hurt us trying to achieve our goal and trying to make San Francisco safer," or safest is what he said. So there's a situation where he de-escalated this, where they de-escalated the violence. He's still arresting people if there's complaints about it, but he isn't getting in their face about it. And I think it's an important look at what things might look like if we got rid of the excuse that they've been using to create this militarized police force.
Well, I mean, David, we know that ending drug prohibition reduces crime. Any country that has done it, that's exactly what happened. I mean, look at Portugal, look at other countries in Europe. As soon as they start taking those steps, crime is reduced. And actually, even I was watching Fox News a couple of days ago. They had a host and 3 panel guests who all agreed that the war on drugs has failed, that it's completely ridiculous, that it's just targeting innocent people, wasting money, creating this huge prison industrial complex. And they all agreed on Fox News.
Wow.
They all agreed that the war on drugs had to end. So, I mean, when it gets to that stage, it's over. We've seen Colorado, their economy is booming as a result of the legalization of marijuana. We've seen other states take steps in that direction since the midterms. And it's just positive benefits all around. And if you look at the cases in other countries, it works every time. So I think that's one front on which we're winning the battle.
Well, that's good, you know, because prohibition doesn't work. It didn't work with alcohol prohibition, even though when they did alcohol prohibition, they had at least enough respect for the Constitution to file 2 constitutional amendments. We got one creating alcohol prohibition, another one to repeal it. Why did they need to have a constitutional amendment? Because the federal government doesn't have the constitutional authority to tell you what you can own, to tell you what you can put in your body. You know what? They don't even have the constitutional authority to mandate insurance to you, do they, Paul? We're going to be talking more about that. But I think that's really what's been driving the violence in the last couple of decades. We've seen the rule of law eroded in terms of civil forfeiture acts where they can seize property, charge the inanimate property with a crime when they never charge the person possessing it with a crime, just confiscate stuff, steal stuff. It breeds corruption. It's bred violence. It's a policy that needs to go. But I think that the reason that they're willing to let it go is because they know they can replace all of this militarized, violent stuff with the war on terror. I think that's where they're going to put their next focus on. And I think they're going to continue to do the same types of militarized police unless we push back, unless we can get above this idea that this is simply white against black. That's the thing that they're trying to sell us. If we buy into that, we're not going to have reform.
Exactly. And on the jury trials, just quickly, there's a story. South Carolina jury indicts white officer for killing black man. Media ignores. That's out of Truth Revolt. And basically, this was a police chief who back in 2011 had a struggle with an African-American in a vehicle, shot him in the chest. He was unarmed. And this officer has just today or yesterday been indicted by a grand jury in South Carolina. But of course, the media is not going to give that any attention. because they're trying to fan the flames of this race war.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which again ignores the
Hang
real
on, Paul.
problem.
We got to go to break. We're going to be right back, and Paul Joseph Watson and I are going to take your calls. I know we've had a lot of people who've been hanging on for a long time. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
A lot of people's lives and bodies are out of balance. AlkaVision Plasma pH drops optimize pH level and get rid of harmful waste and acid. Just a few drops in water restores vibrance and energy and gets you back in balance. Now order 2 bottles and get $10 off your order. Sign up for monthly auto shipping and save 25%. Call 800-518-7615 or visit alkavision.com. Alkalize your body. Supercharge your health at alkavision.com.
Hey, Boomer! I learned in school today that 60% of our bodies are made of water. Good thing we have the Berkey system. It's the cleanest, best water ever. Mom says it's because the Berkey's filtration system cleans out the bad stuff and leaves only pure, delicious water. I know, right? You love it too. Yeah, I'm thirsty too. Let's go get some. Get Berkey clean water by calling 877-886-3653. That's 877-886-3653. Or visit goberkey.com.
It's very easy to be a criminal. All you need to burglarize a home is one simple household tool, a pair of scissors. If your home security system can be compromised by a criminal using scissors, then you're making it easy for them. Almost every home security system, even those sold by big-name companies, has a weakness: the phone line. You shell out $1,500, get locked into a long-term contract, and think you're safe. But a burglar can destroy your alarm in seconds with one snip. And when a burglar cuts your phone line, you're defenseless. Simply Safe Home Security is the smarter choice. Built by Harvard engineers, Simply Safe uses a wireless connection to call the cops. Scissors can't cut it. And that means your home stays safe. 24/7 professional monitoring is under $15 a month with no contract. Simply Safe Home Security keeps you safer than the other guys for half the cost. Protect your home with the alarm you can trust. Simply Safe. Go to simplysafedefense.com now for an exclusive 10% offer. That's simplysafedefense.com.
Do you have relatives and friends that are convinced there is no need ever to prepare for any kind of emergency? Are these also folks you buy Christmas presents for? At 30dayfoodsupply.com, we can solve both of these problems at the same time. Go to 30dayfoodsupply.com or call 541-229-0010. We can ship your Christmas presents directly to them. Choose from our original $99 30-day food supply, our long-term storage vegan burger mixes, and other oatmeal, soups, porridges, beans, and granolas for everyday use. All products are non-GMO, MSG-free, and vegetarian. Most are gluten, soy, and nut-free. Call 541-229-0010 today. Oregon Trail Foods and 30dayfoodsupply.com keep prices low, cutting out the middleman by buying directly from their producers in Oregon. Remember, only $10 ships your entire order to the lower 48. Visit the website 30dayfoodsupply.com. Call 541-229-0010. 30dayfoodsupply.com, 541-229-0010.
The lining of your lungs is supposed to be protected with glutathione to neutralize incoming irritants. In the absence of enough glutathione, your lungs are more prone to irritation. Listen to the real-world results of one man using a powerful glutathione-supporting food.
Hi, my name is Bill O'Brien. I generally suffer through an asthmatic breathing type situation. My breathing is shallow and generally constricted in the nose and lungs. After consuming One World Whey today, I have tremendous energy and also notice my breathing is free. I can feel the air in my left nostril and it is free all the way to my abdomen, which is pretty remarkable because I rarely get that feeling. Being a singer, I love feeling this unrestricted voice. The only thing new I've actually added to my routine is One World Whey. Wow.
Call 888-988-3325. That's 888-988-3325. Or visit oneworldwhey.com. That's oneworld, WHEY.com.
Back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight in Austin. We have Paul Joseph Watson joining us from the UK, and we had some callers who've been waiting a very long time, several of them over an hour. One gentleman, the next one, Eric in Texas, has been waiting for nearly 2 hours. So, Paul, I want to get his comments, and then we'll go to you. Eric in Texas, go ahead.
Hi, David. I want to talk about the corruption in the country, and it goes with the police. I totally agree with Mr. Watson. He nailed it on the head. I think what's happening, not only have they taken control of the discussion, you know, we're not allowed to see that, you know, there's corruption in the judicial system as a whole. You know, the judges, the lawyers, the whole system works with these police. They're bad, and it makes the good ones look bad, and it causes a lot of people on my end. You know, I have a lot of conservative friends, a lot of liberal friends. They're disgusted, and they've decided to just take the cop's side, and they see it as side. And again, I see this as, you know, an attempt to take over the discussion from us. Remember, Hillary Clinton said we're losing the info war.
Yeah.
And I see this as part of a desperation act to try to, you know, take it so they maybe, you know, take it back. But how do we reach people, David, that refuse to listen, you know, to, let's say, you know, we have a black community, they won't listen to any white people. Or we have a white community, they won't listen to anybody liberal, or whatever the situation, whatever group you live in. We need to come together.
Yes.
And how do we do that? Because there's so many people that they're just not going to hear you. You guys are absolutely right, but you'll never be heard. When
they start to bring in nonsense like that, I remember just a couple of weeks ago there was a big discussion about an Uber executive, you know, the cyber taxi system. An Uber executive said that he'd like to hire 4 people to go after a particular journalist, pay him $1 million to do it, you know, get dirt on her, make it public. And there was a huge pushback against that. And then this journalist started turning it into sexism instead of attacking people. You know, that's a very underhanded suggestion to do something like that. It's against our First Amendment, but it really showed the character that they would do something like that, or even think that that would be a reasonable thing to do, as the guy put it forth. But then when they started talking about it as sexism, it basically lost all momentum. And when they start talking about this as being simply a racist issue, then we take reform off of the table. And that's really what Eric Holder is doing. He's now promising to end racial profiling once and for all. He's going to institute rigorous new standards and robust safeguards to help end racial profiling once and for all. It's about a problem that's much bigger than that, and I'll let Paul comment on that. But I think when I looked at that video that was up the other day, this is what happens when you call the cops. He was showing the abuse on white people as well. He was even showing CPS abuse, Child Protective Services abuse. And, of course, we have the article today about the couple had their children confiscated after their home birth. Some people reported them because they gave birth at home, and the CPS people start coming there. That's their probable cause to intrude into their family. Then they start nitpicking their lives, and the next thing you know, they've confiscated their children. So Paul, yeah, how do we get this narrative away from them, this narrative that they're trying to sell everybody that it's simply racism?
Well, I mean, the federal government routinely makes a big show about, you know, federal investigations, Justice Department investigations, no matter what your take on Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, or Eric Garner. Those federal investigations go nowhere. The Trayvon Martin federal investigation is still open, and by all accounts, it's completely fruitless. It's not even coming to any conclusion. Again, proving they don't care about justice, but they're right there on the scene in the very first moments inciting the race war, like Obama was, saying that the anger in response to the Michael Brown case was justified, when if you actually look at the evidence and the facts of the case, not the emotional manipulation and the media narrative, then the anger in that one specific case was not justified based on the evidence, the autopsy results, the ballistic evidence, which backed up Officer Wilson's version of what happened. It would be justified in the Eric Garner case, and that's the point that I've made. You know, I've been steadfast and consistent in supporting a judgment based on facts and evidence, not on emotional manipulation. So whereas I agreed with the grand jury verdict in the Brown case, I disagree with it in the Garner case, because, again, I'm not influenced by this media narrative which is pushing race and division. I think we need to elevate the black voices that are speaking out against both violence within police departments and violence within the black community, because they've got the most credibility. And hopefully the social justice warriors who get distracted by white privilege and all these other distractions will pay heed to those prominent black voices like Charles Barkley.
We heard the same criticisms at the Bundy Ranch. We heard people say, well, you show up here, but you're not going to show up at the inner city. We did show up at the inner city with our reporters. And you know what? There were volunteers who showed up at the Bundy Ranch to constrain the violence there that was being conducted by the federal government. And we also had volunteers, Oath Keepers, show up to protect private businesses in Ferguson. And, of course, they were shut down. mainly by the feds. We're going to be right back. Hang on through the break. Eric, if there's anything else that you wanted to follow up with, so you waited so long, I'll take your call if you want to hang on through the break. We'll be right back.